sequels take up a huge amount of real estate in the cinematic industry. This year alone has seen them come in the Jurassic World, Mission Impossible, Captain America, Final Destination, and Bridget Jones franchises, with many more to come. However, while everyone knows the likes of Avengers Doomsday and Dune Messiah are being made, there are other big sequels that some may have missed. Some of these films were announced so long ago that you may have forgotten that they even existed, while others are coming off the back of successes so fresh you may have missed them completely. So, with that in mind, I'm Ellie for What Culture, and these are movie sequels you didn't know were happening. Lethal Weapon 5. Some entries on this list are set to be follow-ups to movies that have seen success very recently, with studios wasting no time in getting sequels in the works. This is not one of those entries. With legacy sequels being all the rage in the industry today, there is seemingly no time gap that would be deemed too big. As such, the Lethal Weapon franchise, the first film of which released in 1987 and the fourth and most recent back in 1998, has a fifth entry in development. It may be in development hell, but it is in development. Not only that, but the script for the film that would see a return to the franchise for the first time in almost 3 decades has been deemed one of the best ever by Mel Gibson. The actor also acknowledged the problems they have had with getting the project moving forward. But this is a positive step. Following the passing of Richard Donner in 2020, who directed all 4 Lethal Weapon movies to date, Mel Gibson will move behind the camera as well as playing Martin Riggs. This is one that has been in production for so long that it may have been forgotten about. But there is still work being done, no matter how slowly it might be happening. The Devil Wears Prada 2. Since initially releasing back in 2006, The Devil Wears Prada has earned itself an insane following, thanks to a fantastic cast all putting in amazing performances. Memorable characters that you either love or love to hate. And of course, a plethora of iconic quotes. After fans have been hoping and wishing for almost 2 decades, 20th Century Studios recently confirmed that the sequel has officially entered production. And yes, Anne Hathaway, Emily Blunt, Meryl Streep, and Stanley Tucci are all returning, along with Kenneth Branagh, who has been cast as Miranda Priestley's husband. Due to how much further along in the process this particular sequel is compared to others on this list, there are far more details available. So aside from the casting confirmations, audiences can expect to see Miranda struggling with the decline of the magazine industry, while having to deal with Emily, played by Emily Blunt, who is now a higher up in an advertising company. No word yet on Anne Hathaway's role in proceedings, but with a confirmed release date of May 2026, fans who have been waiting patiently for the continuation of this story won't have to wait for too much longer. Edge of Tomorrow 2. From one Emily Blunt movie to another now, and the characters she plays couldn't be more different. Emily in The Devil Wears Prada was the ambitious assistant who would do anything to get ahead, whereas Edge of Tomorrow's Rita was an alien-killing badass hero. The film, in which Emily Blunt was paired with Tom Cruise's William Cage, has accrued something of a cult following in spite of a lukewarm box office response, and there has been call for a sequel for years. The follow-up was actually confirmed in 2016, 2 years after the release of the original. Development hell is where this one has stayed for some time now, as Edge of Tomorrow is over a decade old at this point. But the project, prospectively named Live, Die, Repeat and Repeat, may have had a recent boost with the deal signed between Tom Cruise and Warner Brothers. Quite what a sequel would look like is unclear, as the film wrapped its story up by the time the credits rolled. Humanity won the war against the mimics, and time went back to when Rita had yet to meet Cage. Of course, the aliens could always return, and with the time travel element, there could be any number of ways the stories could progress. So long as both Blunt and Cruise return, audiences will likely be happy. Dodgeball 2. The early to mid-2000s were a hell of a time for comedies, with the likes of Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy, Superbad, and The 40-Year-Old Virgin all releasing to become instant classics of the genre. Among those names is Dodgeball, a true underdog story. The film told the story of Peter LaFleur and his gym, Average Joe's, battling against White Goodman and Globo Jim, both on and off the dodgeball court, to stay open and operating. Like the title suggests, this was a true underdog story, has become nothing short of iconic, and yes, there is a sequel in the works. Officially announced way back in 2013 and going through developmental hell before entering production in 2023, Peter and Average Joe's will be back. Vince Vaughn is set to reprise his role, as well as acting as a producer, though there is currently no word yet on the rest of the cast, including Ben Stiller, Justin Long, and Alan Tudyk. The story could easily pick back up from the end of the original film, where the bigger Average Joe's gym opened up daily weekly dodgeball classes, something that could potentially lead to them entering a team into the tournament on a regular basis. Lilo and Stitch 2. Disney has been going all in, focusing more on live-action remakes and sequels than original stories in recent years. So how about another sequel to a live-action remake? Mufasa the Lion King released last year as the follow-up to Jon Favreau's reimagining in 2019, and now Lilo and Stitch will follow suit. Releasing in 2025, Disney's marketing for Lilo and Stitch was huge, as the little alien could be seen everywhere you turned, and it seems to have paid off. The outing has been a smash hit, just a whisper away from hitting $1 billion at the global box office. This may have somewhat reaffirmed Disney's faith in the live-action strategy. Following on from the dismal showing from Snow White at the box office, the reboot of Tangled that was in the works was reportedly swiftly put on hold. After the opposite fortunes of Lilo and Stitch, though, a follow-up was greenlit almost immediately. Since the ending of the film was drastically changed from the 2002 version, expect the live-action sequel to go in its own direction. Adapting very little, if any, part of the original sequel, Stitch has a glitch. Detective Pikachu 2. When it released back in 2019, Detective Pikachu immediately became the highest-grossing video game movie adaptation of all time. Its $450 million global intake just bested Warcraft from 3 years earlier, and in the time since has only been eclipsed by 3 others, namely Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the Minecraft movie, and the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Typically, a film that sees such success could expect to have a sequel announced relatively soon after, though Detective Pikachu's follow-up was actually greenlit 3 months before the original even released. However, there has been very little news concerning the movie since then. The worldwide pandemic naturally set things back for the project, though even after the film industry began on the road to recovery, there was still nothing. It's quite odd, as given the success of the first movie, a sequel would seem to be a safe bet for another hit. Whatever the reason, be it creative or schedule conflicts or any other of the multitude of factors that could lead to delays, though it remains confirmed and has not been cancelled, even star Justice Smith has heard nothing about reprising his role. It would be a shame for the first live-action Pokemon franchise to end like this, and hopefully the studio can get things moving sooner rather than later. Heat 2. You can pretty much guarantee that putting Robert De Niro opposite Al Pacino will produce fireworks. In 1996, Heat brought them together for the first time since 1974's The Godfather Part 2, and instantly became the cream of the crop in terms of crime thrillers. Like many on this list, Heat was a completely self-contained story that had no real call for a continuation, because there was no need for one. Why ruin something perfect? However, Michael Mann confirmed that he would be making Heat 2 back in 2019. Not only did Mann write and direct Heat, he wrote Heat 2 as his debut novel, which published in 2022, and has just finished his first draft of the screenplay that will adapt it. It may be that no one could have seen a Heat sequel coming after so long, but now that it is on the horizon, there is a lot to get excited about. Serving as something of a prequel and a sequel in a similar way to The Godfather Part 2, Adam Driver is reportedly being looked at to bring to life a younger version of De Niro's Neil McCauley, as De Niro did ironically enough for Marlon Brando in the Godfather follow-up. F1 the Movie 2. When F1 the Movie released, there was a lot riding on it for Apple. The studio had failed to see any real box office success from the likes of Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Fly Me to the Moon, Argylle, or Wolves. F1, however, seems to have bucked that trend. The adrenaline-pumping, fast-paced story that surrounds Formula One and the mismatched pairing of Sonny Hayes and Joshua Pierce has seen success right out of the gate. And the fact that Variety are reporting that a sequel is in the works, according to knowledgeable sources, is hardly surprising. The issue comes with the fact that the story was as self-contained as it could get. Sonny was brought into Apex GP to help out and try and earn a win in the final 9 races of the season, something that they achieved at the very last opportunity before he left to continue to be something of a driving journeyman. If the story is to follow Sonny on his driving escapades across the world, it won't really be an F1 story. If the film follows Apex GP without Sonny, it will sorely miss Brad Pitt's presence. And if it brings Sonny and Apex back together, it risks undermining the ending of the original. Quite the conundrum. The Social Network 2. David Fincher has a CV of cinematic excellence that can go virtually unmatched. The likes of Seven, Fight Club, Zodiac, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and Gone Girl could all be considered his masterpiece, as could 2010's The Social Network. Telling the story of Facebook's inception and the legal battles that went with it, The Social Network was utterly spellbinding. 15 years later, and the story will be revisited with a sequel that surely nobody could have seen coming. Fincher himself will not be returning to direct, as this job will be taken up by Aaron Sorkin, who not only wrote the first film, but will also be writing the second. While there was a definitive ending to the movie back in 2010, there is still a whole lot more a look at the behind the scenes of social media could bring to the table. Reportedly, it will focus particularly on Frances Haugen, a former Facebook employee who turned whistleblower in 2021, exposing the company's neglect in terms of misinformation, hate speech, and teenage mental health. Even without David Fincher, if done well, this is a film that has the potential to be just as explosive as the first. He may not be directing this particular sequel, but there is another follow-up in Fincher's future. Which leads me to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood 2. Throughout Quentin Tarantino's directing catalogue, there have been numerous different threads that have connected several movies, from relatives appearing across multiple pictures to his fictional brand names. The only one of his films that has ever received a sequel, though, was Kill Bill, but that is about to change. Tarantino's most recent feature, 2019's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, will become the second of his work to receive a sequel, though the man himself will not direct. Instead, in his place will be David Fincher, who most would agree wouldn't be a bad replacement. It was originally set to be Tarantino's 10th and final film, titled The Movie Critic, and it would have revisited Brad Pitt's character Cliff Booth. Things have evolved a little from this initial idea, though as Tarantino is still attached to write the screenplay, no doubt there will be a lot still taken from it. Currently, there's no word on Margot Robbie or Leonardo DiCaprio's return, though Empire suggests that the latter is not expected to reprise his role as Rick Dalton. Instead, Pitt will be paired with a largely new cast.